Well, guys, we've made it to the end. This is the last that you'll be hearing from me as far as instruction. Hopefully you'll come and visit me next year. This is NTI 36. We are using trig to find angle measures. So if you know sine, cosine, or tangent ratio of an angle, you can use the inverse ratio, sine to the -1, that's read sine inverse, cosine inverse, or tangent inverse, to find the measure of the angle. So on your calculator, if you locate your sine, cosine, and tangent buttons, do the second function. If you notice on here above that is sine inverse, cosine inverse, and tangent inverse. And if you're using your smartphone, should be similar. Just turn your phone sideways. I did have a couple questions on your phone. Lower left-hand corner, typically there is a button to switch between degrees and radians. Make sure you're doing these problems on a calculator with me to make sure you know how to do these, so that when you do your practice problems, you'll be doing those correctly. Okay, so basically same thing. We need our trig table. Always like to write down the trig table. Anytime you're doing trig, you need that trig table accessible. Make sure your calculator is in degree mode. Sine, cosine, tangent. I like to do the Oscar had a heap of apples to generate my table. Okay, you could do some old hippie caught another hippie tripping on asphalt, or the SOHCAHTOA. Not a big fan of SOHCAHTOA, but it is what it is. Okay, on these, the angle that you're finding is your reference angle. You go opposite of your reference angle, that is your opposite side. Your hypotenuse is always opposite of your right angle. This would be our adjacent side. I'm not going to label it, we're not using it. So in this problem, we're dealing with the opposite and the hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is the sine function. So we're going to use sine. We're trying to find x. So sine of x degrees is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. That's equal to 15 over 24. So when it says if you know the sine, cosine, or tangent ratio, this is the ratio they're talking about. Okay? So we know the ratio. And then we can use the inverse to find our angle. So remember I said this was locked together nice and tight. We have to use something special to separate the sine and the angle measure. Well, guess what? We use sine inverse. You know how I always talk about you do inverse operation to undo something? We use the inverse sine to undo the sine. Technically, we are going to do sine inverse to both sides. So we're going to do sine inverse to both sides. Sine inverse is going to cancel out the sine on this side. So we just have x equals, on this side, we're going to have sine inverse of 15 over 24. Guess what, guys? You live in the computer calculator age, and all you have to do is put that in your calculator. What? My calculator, it went to sleep on me. Okay, so to get the sine inverse, we're going to hit second sine and see how that gives me the sine -1. 15 divided by 24. Okay. Hit enter. And I get 38.68, 38.7 degrees. They want me to round to the nearest tenth, so 38.7 degrees. So X is approximately 38.7 degrees. Okay? Hopefully we are good with that. Let's look at number 3. You know I'm going to have you do these as practice. Okay, this is our reference angle. Straight out from that angle, this is opposite. Okay, the key to doing trig, number 1, have your table written down. Number 2, label your triangle. Actually, probably number 2, identify your reference angle, then label your triangle. This would be my hypotenuse. I'm not actually going to write that down because there's nothing there. I'm not going to be using that. Okay? So that means this is adjacent. Okay? Opposite and adjacent. That is my tangent. So tan x degrees is equal to, okay, tangent is opposite over adjacent, 20 over 37. Okay, again, to undo tangent, I have to do tangent inverse to both sides. So now I don't have to actually write it like I did up here. I know tangent inverse is going to cancel out my tangent. So on this side, I'm just going to have x degrees is equal to tangent inverse of 20, that's a 20, over 37. Okay, grab my calculator. I just do second tangent 20 divided by 37. Enter. 28.39, round up, 28.4. So X is approximately 28.4 degrees. Okay? Okay, number 5. Remember, your reference angle is always the angle you are trying to find. Go straight out from that. This is my opposite. Here's my right angle. This is my hypotenuse. This is my adjacent, but I'm not actually going to label that. Opposite hypotenuse. Opposite hypotenuse. Sine. So sine x degrees is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, 40 over 41. Okay, it's going to be a really big angle, right? Because that's really close to my hypotenuse. Okay, so inverse sine, it's going to cancel that out. So I get x degrees is equal to sine inverse of 40 divided by 41. So x is approximately equal to, whoa, out of control. I just do second sine to get my sine inverse, 40 divided by 41. 77.3. Because it's a 3-1, chop it off. 77.3. Okay. Now we move into a little bit of review down here. Okay. And they're mixing it up on us. Find the sides and the angles. So if they give us an angle, that's our reference angle. Go straight out from that. This is the opposite side. This would be my hypotenuse. I'm not actually going to write it down. There's nothing on there. I'm not going to use it. This is my adjacent. Okay. I'm working with opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent. This time I know my reference angle is 39 degrees. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. That's 11 over x. Okay, remember, if your x is in your denominator, okay, this is the same as being over 1, we can just trade places with these guys. That gets the x out of the denominator and on one side by itself. So I end up with x equals 11 divided by tangent 39 degrees. If your variable is in your denominator, you're going to end up dividing. Okay? So I've got 11 divided by tan 39. So you're only going to use that second if you're finding the angle measure, okay? And also, because this angle is less than 45, this one's going to be more than 45. This side, opposite the greater angle, this side should be more than 11. And it is. 13.58. This goes up 13.6. So x is approximately 13.6. Okay, number 9. Is that going to show up? I don't think that's going to show up. Let's trade pins. Go with this guy. Okay, there's my reference angle. Straight out from my reference angle, this is my opposite. This would be my hypotenuse. I'm not going to put anything there because there's nothing there. This is my adjacent. Okay, opposite and adjacent, that's tangent. My reference angle is 51 degrees. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, so 8 over x. Well, this is almost the same problem. Okay. Trade places. So I get x equals 8 divided by tangent 51 degrees. Okay. Now this time, this is bigger than 45. This should be my bigger side. So x should be less than 8. Okay. So I'm going to do 8 divided by tangent 51. 8 divided by tangent 51. Yep, 6.47, so 6.5. X is approximately 6.5. Okay. Now, on the ACT, this will be your final answer in this form. They're getting away from calculators, because calculators give you different answer when they round. Okay, on the back. Let's see, are we in view or not? Okay, for number 11. Here's our reference angle. This would be my opposite side. I'm not going to write that down, though, because there's nothing there. Here's my right angle. This is my hypotenuse. This is my adjacent side. And let me jot that trig table down. Sine, cosine, tangent. Oscar had a heap of apples. Okay, so I'm working with A and H. How do I figure out which trig function to use? I go look at my table. A and H, that's cosine. So cosine, this time I don't know my reference angle, I'm trying to find it. Cosine of x is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. So 14 over 22. Okay. In order to get the cosine away from the x, I have to do the inverse cosine on both sides. Inverse cosine cancels this out. I have just x equals cosine inverse of 14 divided by 22. So remember, to get that cosine inverse on the calculator, I hit second cosine. Second cosine, 14 divided by 22. I get 50.47, round up, so 50.5. So x is approximately 50.5 degrees. Okay. Notice we should have expected that to be more than 45. Okay, just because this one is basically the same as this one, I'm going to actually jump over and do this one. Okay, this is our reference angle. Go straight out until you hit this. This is opposite. This is hypotenuse. This would be adjacent, but there's nothing on this side, so I'm not even going to label it. So I'm working with opposite and hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse is sine. Sine x degrees. Okay, sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so 10 over 19. Okay, how do I get the sine away from the x? Inverse sine, both sides. Inverse sine will cancel the sine out, so I just have x degrees is equal to sine inverse of 10 divided by 19. Okay, how do I get that sine inverse on my calculator? Second sine, 10 divided by 19. 31.75. I go up, so 31.8. So x is approximately 31.8 degrees. Okay? So, what I am going to ask you to do for practice is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and 13. And then everybody's asking for bonus. 15, 16, 17, and 18 are bonus. Okay? If you do these 4 bonus problems, take a picture of them and send me an email. Okay? These are bonus. Okay? I've already had some people do bonuses on the NTI 35, and they did an awesome job. So good job. So once you do these and submit your answers on the form, that's it, guys. You are done. And I really, really miss you. I have enjoyed each and every one of you, and I really hate that the year ended this way. So, have a great summer. We don't know what or how the school year is going to start. So, enjoy what you got. Take care, guys. Love you all. And send me little messages. I love when you send me messages. You guys are all awesome. Take care. Miss you all. Bye.